plan on returning. Until next time on the Zeta Report, this is Nancy Lee. Commerce between the ocean and routes inland, built on what was considered solid rock. New York and Miami now have towering skyscrapers right at the water's edge. What were they thinking? This is great access for port and pleasure boats. But what about when we have the pole shift, tilting the earth for 90 degrees suddenly, causing great sloshing of the oceans which roll those tidal waves hundreds of miles inland? Per the Zetas, the pole shift tidal waves will roll into the foothills of Appalachia and will most certainly roll over Florida. Per the Zetas, the state of Florida has several strikes against it. Florida is lowland with very few high points. It's sinking now, and it has very few escape routes. Take a look at the Florida map. There's Miami at the very tip. And if the government wanted to eliminate a lot of hungry mouths, soft city folk and the aged, they would simply block a couple major highways, 75 and 95, and there you'd be, stranded. Miami may be dreamy, a city surrounded by water, but where would you go if the water started to rise? Into the high rises? Or into the swamp? How strong is the rock strata under those high rises? Florida has a problem with sinkholes caused by its porous limestone base, suddenly sinking houses and roadways. And those sinkholes are getting worse. If they open up along your escape route, there you'd be, trapped between a tidal wave and a sinkhole. Can those pleasure boats become survival boats? Not likely. Per the Zetas, the sloshing water will capsize even large ocean-going vessels. Frankly, Florida is a death trap. The only solace is that drowning is a quick and painless death. So how about New York City? It has roadways fanning out in every direction. If the government wanted to eliminate hungry mouths, they'd have a hard time with New York City. Per the Zetas, the problem with New York City is the many bridges that connect New York City to the mainland. These will be torn apart during the many earthquakes that will precede the pole shift, leaving those stranded, desperately seeking boats to the mainland. Thereafter, if they make it, they'll be on foot. Does Manhattan fare better? Per the Zetas, New York City will have to deal with an imploding city. An example was exploding steam pipes just last July. There really was no explanation for those broken pipes. The rock tilts at an angle, or is pulled apart by stretching. Under all those high-rises are levels underneath, where steam and water and gas and electrical mains are run. What happens when they shatter? New York City should certainly not be considered passable during the last weeks. Any roadways out of the area are going to be blocked, demolished, or just clogged with cars. The Zetas advise those living in New York and Miami to leave their beloved cities when the last weeks arrive, those 3 days of darkness for the Northern Hemisphere, and don't plan on returning. Until next time on the Zeta Report, this is Nancy Lee.